All right, welcome back. I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend, a good Father's Day weekend. Now it's back to getting ready for our RBT exam. Today we are continuing our RBT exam series where I'm going through a full exam, question by question, breaking down each question, how I think about it as a BCBA and how I think you should think about it as an RBT. So I hope these are helpful. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're just returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe if these are helpful so I can continue putting out new videos. If you're looking for study materials, check out our website, rbtexamreview.com, or you can go directly to one of these links or our shop where we have 2 full practice exams, a RBT task list study guide, which covers the entire RBT task list. Our combo pack comes with all the exams, all the study guides, and flashcards. It's our best deal. Or we have our competency study guide for either your initial or your renewal. So check those out. Questions, comments, please leave them below. Other than that, let's get into it. We're on question 91. Your BCBA puts together a meeting with you, the client, and the client's parents to discuss the treatment plan. During reinforcement discussions, your BCBA suggests using ice cream as an edible reinforcer. The parents think it is a great idea, but your 12-year-old client says they hate ice cream. Your BCBA decides to try ice cream anyway because they think the client will grow to like it. Is this maintaining client dignity? All right, what type of question? We have an ethics question, and we're asking about client dignity. Okay, and what is client dignity? Client dignity is nothing more than treating your client with respect that you would treat anybody else with, okay, regardless of disability, regardless of age, skill. We need to treat our clients with the same respect we want to be treated with and that we would treat anyone else. Okay, so this client or this question is asking about a situation where you have a client who says they don't like ice cream, but your BCBA and the parents decide they're going to push through anyway because they believe that it's the best way to go about reinforcing the client. So, are we maintaining client dignity here? Are we respecting the client? A, yes, your client is not 18 and therefore not old enough to be involved in treatment planning. Or a client might not be 18, okay, but they are old enough to be involved in treatment planning, especially a client that can verbalize wants and needs. They are more than old enough, okay? Age is irrelevant to being involved in treatment planning. Clients should be involved as much as possible. Okay, so A is wrong. B, yes, since the parents agreed to the reinforcer, it is safe to assume the client is not telling the truth. Again, not necessarily, right? Parents typically know their child very well, okay? But is it fair to say that parents sometimes don't know everything about their child, right? And for us to assume the client is not telling the truth because the parents think it's going to be a reinforcer, okay? That's not maintaining client dignity because you're just assuming your client is lying, okay, and not respecting what they're saying and their wishes. So B is wrong. So obviously we're not maintaining client dignity, right? But why? Okay. C, the client should be involved in treatment planning to the fullest extent possible. Yes. Okay. Regardless of age and skill and disability, clients should be involved in their planning as much as possible. Okay. That doesn't mean that they should be picking everything, right? They're not going to pick their behavior plans and the skills and everything. But if your client, especially during a reinforcer assessment, says, I don't like that, that should be taken into account. Okay. And that should be respected. They need to be involved as much as possible. Ignoring their request, ignoring that they hate ice cream, okay, is not maintaining client dignity. And then D, using edible reinforcers like ice cream that are unhealthy is unethical. Yeah, it might be unhealthy, right? But it's just a treat. It's a reinforcer. It's not unethical. Okay. So 91 is C. No, the client should be involved in treatment planning to the fullest extent possible. All right. 92. Your BCBA designed a behavior plan utilizing a DRA strategy. You are to reinforce your client with attention whenever they make verbal requests, and you're to put pinching on extinction. During your session, your client says, can you play with me? And then pinches you. What should you do? All right. So differential reinforcement question. A what should you do question. So it's a scenario question. So read the question and think about what would you do in this situation. You're running a DRA, a differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors, okay, for a verbal request. Your client verbally requests, can you play with me, but also pinches you, okay? So you're supposed to reinforce one, put the other on extinction, right? Both occur. Ask yourself, is that okay? Yes. And why is that okay? Because in a differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors, both behaviors can occur at the same time. If that were to happen, what do you do? A, reinforce the client with attention for asking you to play with them. Yes, right? That is what the treatment plan says. That is what you're supposed to be doing. Your client asked you to play with them. You should reinforce it, right? Pinching is irrelevant to you reinforcing them asking you for attention. Pinching should still be on extinction, but since it's a DRA, both these can happen at the same time. You still need to reinforce the alternative replacement behavior, which is asking for attention or verbally requesting. Okay, so A looks good. However, always read all your answer choices. We're looking for the best answer. Always read every choice. B, provide no praise or attention since your client pinched you. No, right? You shouldn't reinforce the pinching, but your client did what? Make a verbal request. So you do need to provide reinforcement and attention and praise, okay, for the verbal request. So B is wrong. C, praise the verbal request and punish the pinching behavior. What's wrong with this one? Well, it's half right, right? We should be praising the verbal request and reinforcing with attention. However, we're not punishing, right? We're putting the pinching on extinction. Extinction is not a punishment procedure. Okay, that's very important. Extinction is not a punishment procedure. If you're not directed to punish, you should never punish. C is wrong. And then D, contact your BCBA for guidance. No, this should be pretty straightforward, okay? It's a simple DRA where you're reinforcing a verbal request with attention, putting pinching on extinction. Your client asked for attention with a verbal request, okay? Therefore, you should reinforce them with attention, okay? If you don't understand this question, all right, go back, review DRA, DRI, DRO, and remember, differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors, the target behavior can happen at the same time as the behavior we want to extinguish, okay? The key is to put the behavior we want to get rid of on extinction and reinforce only the behavior we want to see. 93. Which of the following best represents most to least prompting? All right. When you get a question like this, a short question, an easy question, you should feel very confident in answering this question quickly, okay? The easy questions on the RBT exam, if you studied, okay, are very, very easy, okay? I got to emphasize that. If you know terms, if you know definitions, the easy questions are very, very easy, okay? So this question, which of the following best represents most to least prompting? Most to least prompting, what are we looking for? We're looking for the prompt that is the most invasive, the most intrusive first, and then we gradually fade them out, okay? Look at A, partial physical, modeling, verbal. That's a good representation of most to least, right? We're going from a physical prompt to a modeling prompt to a verbal prompt. So A looks really good. Read all your answer choices, modeling, partial physical, verbal. So this requires you to understand that a physical prompt is more invasive than a modeling prompt. Physical prompts are the most invasive, right? Full physical and partial physical are the most invasive prompts. And then on our hierarchy, okay, from most to least, we have full physical, partial physical, modeling, and then visual, verbal, gestural, okay, depending on the client, depending on who you ask, right? So C, visual, modeling, verbal. Visual does not come before modeling. And then D, verbal, gestural, modeling. Verbal and gestural do not come before modeling. Therefore, the best representation of most to least prompting is our physical, modeling, verbal. Really simple question, okay? If that question is not simple, you have to go study your task list, study guides some more, okay? That should be very easy. 94. Which of the following examples best represents establishing a contingency? Okay, again, pretty easy question, but what do you need to know? You need to know what a contingency is. You need to know what establishing a contingency is, okay? If you don't know that, this question becomes a lot harder. So what is a contingency? A contingency is a if-then statement. It's a first-then statement. First we do this, then we do this. If we do this, then we do this. That's establishing a contingency. As an RBT working in ABA, You're constantly establishing these contingencies to provide you with opportunities to provide reinforcement to the client. If you clean your room, then you get a token. If you do your work, then you get $1. Okay, so we need to find the best example for a contingency. A, John's mom took him to Target over the weekend and bought him a Lego set. In exchange, John has to behave at school on Monday. All right, think about this one. What's the problem here? John got a Lego set, and now John has to behave at school on Monday. Is this a contingency or is this bribery? Well, this is bribery. What is bribery? Bribery is when we flip the contingency. Okay. The reward comes before the if. Okay. If then is a contingency. In this case, what happened? The then, the Lego set came before the if. Giving them the reinforcer and then saying, now you have to behave is a form of bribery. Okay. It's not a contingency. It's not nearly as effective, and it's something we shouldn't do. John already has the reinforcer, and now we just have to hope he behaves at school. A contingency would have been, if you behave at school on Monday, then we go to Target. A is out. B, Billy is invited to a sleepover at his best friend's house tomorrow night. His mom tells him he needs to complete his chores before he can go. This looks really good, right? What did mom say? All right, we know you have your sleepover. If you complete your chores, then you can go. First, you complete your chores, then you can go. Great example of a contingency. B looks really good. However, always read your answer choices. C, Joe sees a fire truck, points and says, red fire truck. Is there any contingency here? No, it's a simple tact, right? It's just a simple label. Joe saw a fire truck. He said fire truck. D, you order a coffee from the local coffee shop. The cashier says, have a nice day, and you say, you too. Any contingency established? Nope, simple interverbal, just a conversation. Okay, there's no if then. It's just a response. It's just an interverbal. Our best answer here is B. Billy is invited to a sleepover. His mom tells him he needs to complete his chores before he can go. First chores, then go. The problem with A was reinforcer first. Now you have to behave. Okay, so B is our best example. 95. Use a token board to reinforce your client. The current reinforcement schedule is FR2 and has been for the past 2 months. Today, your BCBA changed the reinforcement schedule to a VR4. The next 2 sessions, your client refuses to work and starts to elope from their seat during DTT. Which of the following possibly explains why your client is engaging in behaviors? All right, kind of a tricky question, okay? It's a harder question, I would say. It's a very term-oriented question, okay? And the question is asking, why is your client suddenly, okay, engaging in these elopements and these refusing to work? Well, what do we know? We know at first you were working on an FR2 for a token board, okay, and now you're on a VR4. Is a VR4, okay, a thinner schedule, right? A schedule that's harder to contact reinforcement than an FR2? Yes, right? FR2 is a fixed ratio 2. Every 2 responses, boom, reinforcement. VR4 is variable. It's an average of every 4 responses. So this has become a lot more difficult for your client to contact reinforcement, okay? So when you fade a schedule, which is what we did, remember, fading a reinforcement schedule, okay, we're increasing, okay, the amount of work or the amount of responses or the time taken to contact reinforcement. You're thinning that schedule out, you're fading it, okay? And when you do that, what can possibly happen? Okay, there's a specific term. And this is what looks like is happening in this scenario. So A, the reinforcement schedule is too thick. No, it's actually the opposite, right? When you increase that requirement, what are you doing? You're thinning the schedule. A thick schedule is like an FR2, right? There's a lot of reinforcement being delivered very quickly. The harder it is to contact reinforcement, the thinner the schedule is. So A is out. B, ratio strain is occurring. Yes, okay. That's what it looks like to me, right? What is ratio strain? Ratio strain is when you change the ratio requirement to contact reinforcement. You make the requirement higher. So you have to exhibit or display more responses in order to contact reinforcement. that can lead to emotional outburst or behavioral outburst or a stoppage in work, right? If it's too hard to contact reinforcement, I'm just not going to work, right? If I used to work 8 hours and now I have to work 12 hours for the same pay, okay, I might stop working, right? So in this case, we've thinned the schedule out, okay? We faded reinforcement, and now our client is refusing to work and engaging in behaviors. Most likely, ratio strain is occurring. Read all your answer choices. Your client is most likely frustrated. Do we ever say a behavior is a result of a frustration or anger? No, right? We don't attribute behavior to these constructs, right? D, VR4 should never be used during DTT. Oh, again, incorrect. VR is our strongest reinforcement schedule, right? So VRs are absolutely used during DTT. What is most likely occurring is ratio strain, okay? We faded the reinforcement too much. We increased the requirement and made it too high, okay, too quickly. 96. Dad says we are leaving in 15 minutes. Time to get dressed. Your client plays video games for 5 more minutes before he gets up and starts to get ready. It takes him 3 minutes to change clothes, 2 minutes to put his shoes on, and 4 minutes to eat a snack. What is the latency of getting ready in relation to Dad's announcement? All right, easy question, okay? Don't get tricked. A lot of numbers, a lot of stuff going on here. What is the question asking? You need to always determine what is the question actually asking. The question is asking about the latency from Dad's announcement to getting ready. That's all we're looking for, okay? Everything else doesn't matter. We just need to know the time. What is latency? The time, okay, between the SD, right, and the start of a response. So what is the time between Dad's announcement and getting ready? That's what we're looking for. So Dad says we are leaving in 50 minutes, time to get dressed. Your client plays video games for 5 more minutes before he gets up and starts to get ready. So what do we know? Dad said time to get dressed. 5 minutes passed, and then your client started to get ready. Okay. What is latency? Is it 9 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, or 15 minutes? Well, we know it's 5 minutes, right? And why is it 5 minutes? Because from Dad's announcement to your client starting to get ready, okay, it took 5 minutes. Understand that question, okay? A lot of numbers, a lot of stuff going on. Don't get confused by the details. Just answer, okay, what the question is asking of you. Figure out what you need to respond with, okay? In this case, we just need latency. Super simple question, okay, if you just answer the question. 97. Your client's teacher expresses that it takes your client too long to complete his assigned work in class. Your BCBA asks the teacher to take data on the client's work completion. The teacher reports that it took the client 30 minutes on Monday, 45 minutes on Tuesday, 20 minutes on Wednesday, and 25 minutes on Thursday. What is the average duration of work completion? All right, how do we find an average? If you don't know how to find an average, you need to learn, okay? They're going to ask you average questions, almost undoubtedly, right? An average, we take our total time, okay, and divide it by the number of trials, right, so to speak, the number of responses, right? In this case, how many data points do we have? How many trials do we have? We have Monday 1, Tuesday 2, Wednesday 3, Thursday 4. So we have 4 total trials, 4 total data points. So in order to get the average, we need our total what? We need the total duration, okay? What is our total duration? Well, we have 30, 45, 20, and 25, okay? So 45 and 25 is 70. 70 plus 30 is 100. 100 plus 20 is 120. So that's our total duration. And we divide that by however many trials or data points we have, which is 4. 120 divided by 4 is what? And on the exam, they will give you a piece of scrap paper and they will give you a calculator, okay? So the math isn't the scary part. You just need to know how to find the average, okay? Because you have all the tools for the math. You're allowed a calculator. And in this case, we have 120 total minutes. We're looking for the average. We divide it by the total number of trials or data points, okay, which is 4, and that gives us 30. okay? If you understand this question, if you understand how to find average here, every other average question is easy. You have calculators, you have scrap paper. You just need to understand how to find an average, okay? They might ask for average IRT, average latency, average duration. It doesn't matter, okay? Because you find average the same way, right? And the average here is 120 divided by 4, which is 30. 98. RBTs conduct preference assessments intermittently when working with clients. All of the following are true about preference assessments, except what? So this is an except question. Be on the lookout for those not questions, those except questions, okay, where you're looking for the answer that doesn't fit this. So what are we trying to find? We know 3 of these answers, okay, are true about preference assessments. 1 isn't, okay? A, preference assessments can establish a hierarchy. Absolutely, right? Preference assessments inherently establish a hierarchy. When you're doing forced choice, you're getting a hierarchy. Multiple stimulus, you're getting a hierarchy, okay? So A is true about preference assessments. The question is asking what isn't true, okay? That's what except means. What isn't true about preference assessments? B, preference assessments can be contrived or conducted naturally. Absolutely. When we do single stimulus, forced choice, multiple stimulus, we're contriving it. But we also have natural preference assessments where we just observe the client and record their interactions with the environment. So B is true. C, preference assessments identify reinforcers for the client. Ooh, careful, okay? What is wrong here? Are we identifying reinforcers with preference assessments? Or are we identifying potential, and that word is important, potential reinforcers? Preference assessments are identifying potential reinforcers, okay? All we're looking at with preference assessments is what things do the client, what do they like? What does the client like? That's all we're looking for, okay? Once we figure out what they like, then we do a reinforcer assessment and figure out what actually changes their behavior. Preference assessments do not identify reinforcers. They identify potential reinforcers. Huge, huge, huge thing to remember. Don't get tripped up. So C is not true. Always read them all. D, preference assessment should be client specific. Yes, we shouldn't just assume all kids like something, okay? So our best answer here is C. The following are true except preference assessments identify reinforcers for the client. 99. Prompting is used to evoke behaviors that you want to see. Every prompting procedure should have a prompt fading plan in place. Why is it important to fade prompts? Ooh, that's a tongue twister. Prompting is used to evoke behaviors, okay? We know that. Why is it important to fade prompts? That's what the question is asking. Why should we fade prompts? All that other stuff is just filler. We're just asking why is it important to fade prompts? Okay, you should in your mind answer this question. A, failure to fade prompts can lead to prompt dependency. Yeah, that's true. That's one reason it's important to fade prompts. Okay, so A immediately looks like our best answer. However, we want to read all the answers. Okay, but you should know this immediately. Okay, this is a very easy question. B, prompting should only be used as a last resort. No, prompting is something we use early and often. C, prompting is a consequence strategy. That's already wrong. Prompting is an antecedent strategy. D, prompting isn't considered an ABA procedure. Again, incorrect. So, super easy question. Okay, A should jump out to you immediately, and it should be very easy to eliminate B, C, and D. Okay, and questions like this, again, you should fly through these questions, these easy questions, and give yourself more time on the more difficult ones. Okay, that's the goal here. You don't have to get every question right on the test. Get the easy ones correct, okay, and then get most of the hard ones correct, okay? And if you do that, you're going to pass, right? Now, you want to try to get everything correct, clearly, but you don't want to spend 3 minutes on a question like 99, okay? You're just wasting time, all right? So study, study, study. Make sure these questions, these easy questions, are actually easy. Finally, 100. Line graphs are the most common graph used in ABA to track behavior relative to time. On a line graph, time is located on the blank. Okay, so if you've been following me a lot, you may have seen this question before, okay? And you might ask why I emphasize, graphing questions or why I keep asking these questions. The reason I keep asking the same graphing questions is because, one, there's only so many graphing questions they can actually ask on the exam. Two, graphing questions give potential RBTs anxiety. And I'm just trying to stress how easy the line graph questions are, okay? There's only a few things you need to know about line graphs, okay? And then you can answer every single line graph question they throw at you. And this is one of those, okay? Where is time located on the line graph? Is it the y-axis, the x-axis, condition change line, or baseline? Well, D is definitely out, okay, because baseline is something we record. C, condition change line is out because it just marks a change in conditions. So it leaves us with the y-axis and the x-axis. What do you know about the y-axis? What goes on the y-axis? Behavior, right? Behavior goes on the y-axis. Therefore, that leaves us with x-axis. Time is located on the x-axis, okay? If you know these few simple things for line graphs, you'll never miss a line graph question. Super, super easy. All right, that wraps it up for today. I'll be back Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday as usual. Okay, be on the lookout for those. Please like and subscribe. That supports me and I appreciate it. All study materials available, okay, at our shop or our website. So check those out. Any questions, comments, leave them below. Keep studying hard, and I will see you soon.